Hi, I'm Alex Archibald. I've been buying and selling antiques since I was a kid. Over the years, generations of our family have gotten involved in the business, and I'll search just about anywhere I can to find hidden treasures both big and small. I never know what I'll turn up next. It's about exploring new places, seeing new sights, and having fun. And even though sometimes I get over my head, we try and make things a little better along the way. This is Curiosity. Well, hi everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I just got back from the post office just now, and I picked up an absolutely massive bin that someone was shipped to me. This is an estate sale bin. Anyway, it's a bin full of wristwatches. I'm gonna get it out of the car. We're gonna take it in the house. We're gonna dig through its watches, its parts. I really hope it's gonna be worthwhile. They couldn't really tell me what was in there. I could barely see from the pictures they had, but I'm really hoping there's gonna be some old stuff in there and hopefully a couple good valuable watches. So let's dig through the bin today. Let's see what we found, and hopefully there's gonna be a couple treasures. Let's go. So this is the bin in question. Just picked it up from the post office, and I am gonna need both hands for this. I know many of you complain that I'm not using a tripod, but that's so I can move the camera around like that. If it was mounted to my body, I couldn't do that. Anyway, this thing weighs in at a whopping 50 pounds, 22 kilograms. That's a lot of watches. That's a heavy box. I will say I was expecting kind of a cardboard box. Oh, they zip tied it shut. I have to get the scissors out and cut those off. Looks like they zip tied both sides for security. That's good. It's a good way to do it. Okay, there we go. This was kind of an interesting situation because it was an estate sale. Somebody passed on. They were selling stuff online from outside the house, and I missed out on a garage full of vintage guitars for $1,000. A whole garage full of guitars for $1,000. But I was able to strike a deal on the watches. Now, I imagine there's going to be some in here that are not worth anything, but I'm hoping there's some that are going to be okay. That's why we got to go through. I do like the fact that there's a bunch of watch batteries. So for some of the newer watches, I might be able to throw batteries in and sell them. How do we do this? Maybe bag by bag? What I'll do is I'll empty the thing out. Some of these are old, some of them are not. Most of them look newer so far. I'm really, really hoping that there's gonna be at least a few good older watches in here. Well, that one says it's a Tudor. If that's a real Tudor watch, that's good. Maybe. I'm not gonna get too excited just yet. There's some watch heads, older looking ones. All it takes is one or two watches to make this all worthwhile. Paid the equivalent of about $500 US for all this. You might say, oof, that's a lot of money for something you don't know what's even in there. But like I said, it's rolling the dice. Even some regular 1950s watches can be worth, $100 to $200 each if it's a nice old watch. And I should be able to get some money out of the, that's just a box. Another box. Case, but it feels heavy. Oh, it's in there. Time 100 quartz watch. Don't feel like that's probably a super expensive watch, but at least it's somewhat new. With the container, watch case pieces. Oh, presses. So this person was obviously into repairing watches, and they had some parts and pieces in here. Presses for the crystals and cases. Oh, there's a few in here. Gruen. See, like, even these watches can be $60, $80, $100 each. Okay, let me not get ahead of myself because I am easily distracted like a squirrel. Let's see, watch straps. Guessing those will come in handy. And old clock hands. Oh, we've got crowns. And I will dig through there to look for any Breitling or Rolex crowns. somebody who's been working on watches for a long time might have come across, and these are old crowns, probably had parts for some higher end watches mixed in there. You'd be surprised, even just a Rolex crown can be worth $500, $1,000 just for the crown, the thing you wind. What's this? Digital caliper. Yep. It's handy to tell you what size of lugs you have on your watch. Getting to the nitty gritty here, I think. Get the last of these out and then we'll start sorting. Okay, this is where the fun part begins. And I'll be honest, I'm going straight to that bag that I thought I saw the Tudor watch in. Oh, here's a nice one. That's a Sakura dive style watch. Question is, does it work? Or does it need service? It feels like it's taking a wind. There it goes. Sakura, it was sort of like a subsidiary of Breitling, or Breitling, depending upon how you want to say it. They're actually a really decent watch. Well, this watch alone could be several $100s just as it is. Manual wind, it's a nice vintage piece. So we got one good one right away. I gotta make a pile for my good stuff. Pulsar, what do we got here? Caravel. Is it automatic? It's an automatic. Caravel is not super expensive, but an automatic is still probably like $100 watch if I can replace that crystal and make it look good. Where's the Tudor? Oh, this doesn't feel heavy enough to be real, if I'm honest. I don't know why they would make a replica Tudor watch, but this thing just feels cheap. Tudor is a sort of a sub-brand of Rolex. Had this been real, well, I don't know. I can't imagine they make a watch that feels kind of this light, this cheap, but I'll see. The back is loose on it, so let's open up the back and have a look. 100% fake, but maybe I can get a new battery for that, and you know, somebody would buy, as long as you advertise it as a replica. Why wouldn't you just go all the way and make a replica Rolex? Why make a replica Tudor, of all things? I know this thing looks like a little pocket watch, but in fact it's a ruler. You lay it down, and as it rolls, it measures. So that was 7 inches, and you can go into the feet. I can't imagine rolling this thing along for 100 feet, but that's kind of an ingenious little way of having a pocket measuring tape without it being a measuring tape. I don't know how precise it would be. You'd have to really, after you zero it out, you'd have to really start, I guess, right in the middle, and then kind of be very careful how you roll it. Doesn't seem like the world's most useful thing, but it's made in Switzerland. Charles Bruning Company. What an odd little thing that is. I'll put that in the okay stuff pile. So far I've got 3 watches out of this bag that are okay. That's a little Timex Indiglo, it's all right. Can't make out the brand name on this one. Kind of a neat, it's basically just like a little lady's cocktail watch with an interesting holder that turns it into a bracelet. Vintage, but vintage doesn't always mean valuable. Okay, we have a lot of watches to go through. Like here's a newer fossil watch mixed in with probably like a 1960s Sakura. This is definitely gonna be a mixed bag. I don't know what brand that is. Miyoko quartz. But, you know, enough of these little quartz watches together at $5 or $10 a pop start to add up as well. Let's keep digging. It's not really a great way to do this other than just dump them out. Okay, that one's missing its back. It's an old Timex electric. Newer, that is an older battery operated. Some of these are obviously going to need some repair. So Timex electrics, another Timex self-wind, it's an automatic. I'll put that over in the somewhat cool pile. Another Timex automatic. Timex, not overly expensive watches, but they're not bad watches. I mean, they do the trick. That's a doctor's or nurse's style watch. They would have sort of the 2 hands like that. But that's not a real Doctor's watch. I guess it could be, anybody could own it, but not for practical purposes. Timex waterproof. That is, it's a wind up. Anything that's mechanical is actually gonna be worth a little bit more. That's why I'm sort of separating that. Calvin Klein, Time Magazine, that would have come with your subscription. Automatic. It's Timex quartz, but it's a moon phase, which is kind of cool. There's a little sport watch. Those are always popular. Roots brand, though. Mickey Mouse watch with the hologram. Some of these are just kind of basically nothing. That's kind of cool. The Timex, but it's got that checkered flag, like racing sort of look to it. That'd be neat. Sort of like a, it probably would have had a bezel on it to make it look like more of a sport watch, like a rotating bezel, kind of like that. And it doesn't have it right now. You can tell from the way that face is shaped. But that's kind of cool. That might be something. Timex electric, very 1950s looking electric. Some of these are definitely worse for wear, but that's what happens. You buy a batch like this, you don't know what you're gonna get. That's sort of a mid-century modern look, little Timex there. And it's working. It's ticking away, so put that in the okay pile. Just doing the initial sort is probably the fun part, because you're hoping to find, I would be happy to find another Sakura or a couple other cool things. A real Rolex would be lovely, but really don't see that happening. There's a military style Timex with this, the black dial, the white Arabic numerals on there. That's another automatic. So this is mostly Timex in here, but there's a number of old watches, so that's good. There's a lot of 1950s watches in the mix, and then a random assortment of newer ones, which I can just sell those off anyway. So not too bad. I'm gonna keep the mechanical watches aside like that. And surprisingly, I bet this thing will start going. Give it a little bit of a shake. Yep, there it goes. Ticking away. Who knows how long it's sitting in the bag for. Gold plating is mostly all worn off of that thing, but the mechanism's still good. Oh, neat little bag. Let's keep going. Okay, on to the next bag. We've got a Citizen Quartz, old Casio, or a Seiko digital watch, which these were a pretty expensive thing actually when they were new in the 70s and 80s. You were pretty high tech if you had an alarm or calculator watch like that. So there are people that collect those. Well, that's a Seiko 5 automatic, 21 jewel. That's actually a really good watch. In the land of Seiko, Seiko 5 like that is quite a nice piece. That looks like it's vintage, maybe 1960s, mid 60s, late 50s. And it's working, which is nice. That goes in the good pile. And the lady's cocktail watch, a Seiko wind up. It says good on the back. So it was good whenever somebody stuck the sticker, put the sticker on there. It's Seiko quartz. Seiko are actually surprisingly decent watches. That one's working still. Huh. Somebody must put batteries in some of these things. This is mostly Seiko in here. Ladies wind up in a Seiko quartz. It's made to look like a lady's Rolex. So at first glance, you might see that on somebody's wrist and think it's a lady's Datejust Rolex, but it's a Seiko. Okay, neat little batch. I got a Seiko 5 automatic out of it, so feeling pretty good. Most of that was actually all decent out of there. Let's move on to another bag. Part swatches. What do I want to look at? Ladies' watches. Let's do one of these big bags. See what's in there. Okay, where do I start? Oh, that looks like Steam Fitters Union, Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, Technician. Well, that's a Hamilton watch. I don't know if it's, I think it's probably battery operated Hamilton, but still, that's a Hamilton watch with the Plumbers Union logo on it. That's an okay watch. That's sort of mid-range, but good. Some Hamilton watches are actually really expensive. Newer Timex Indiglo. I'm looking mainly for the old mechanical watches. That's what I'm sifting for right now. It's an old electric, quartz. The goal, of course, with all this is that I'd like to find at least a few decent ones in the mix here. This is an old Timex automatic, and it's ticking away. All right, a lot of Timexes. That's another Timex manual wind. Funky little dial on that one. So I'm hoping, wouldn't it be nice to find a couple higher end Swiss watches in here, but it's lots of Timex automatics. Unfortunately, like I said, Timex aren't really the most expensive of the watches, so when you're digging through a pile like this, it's okay to find one, but as an Elgin. But what you're looking for, more of the higher end brands, sport watches, dive watches. Like honestly, the best watch I found so far is probably that Secura right there. That's my guess. That Tudor would have been good if it was real, Cardinal. So some decorative watches. Well, that's an interesting one. The moon phase, who made it is the question. Oh, Apollo 11. So it's a commemorative moon watch with the moon phases on it. It's trying to work. See, the second hand is twitching in there. Okay. That one might have some hope. The battery might just be on its last legs. So, I mean, a pile of watches in that bag, but very few of them. Most of this stuff, and I will go through this in more detail. Oh, look at that. I like these checkered flag. That's a Russian watch, I think. Is it? Oh, or is it French? Made in, it might be Russian. Interesting though. I like those racy kind of looking car wrist watches. Some really fun ones are made over the years too. Okay, let's move on to another bag. Bag number 3. I should say when I was going through that other bag, I found relatively decent Anne Klein watch in here. I mean, it's not super pricey, but it's in good shape. And an older swatch. Swatches are collectible. I think this might be, that's a swatch as well, but a mechanical swatch. Needs the band fixed, but interesting. I shouldn't say mechanical, I meant to say skeleton. That's still a battery operated watch. It's just you can see through the back. This is a skeleton style watch, and it is with an automatic movement, albeit this is not a very fancy watch. It looks kind of cool. You can see the guts and gears in there, but it's not very elaborate. Probably not a very expensive watch, but still kind of neat to be able to see the movement like that. So some newer watches in here. Another skeleton watch. I mean, you know, they'll sell. People think these are neat. You see this one's got a little bit more going on with the movement than that. So a couple skeleton watches in there. And I'm just kind of looking at the dial, seeing if they're, what the brand is. And like, that's not a bad looking chronograph, but those are probably just like, you know, cheapy little watches you could get somewhere. Nibosi. It's a chronograph with the push buttons on it. But it's, again, cool looking. Well, there's a Citizen Eco Drive dive watch. That's not a bad watch. That'll go in the, that'll go over here in the okay pile. They call this, look, the Pepsi sort of bezel because of the red and the blue. Rolex did it on their GMTs. It was a pretty popular watch, which I'd like to find another one. Oh, there's another Citizen chronograph. A little bit better. Brigada. Needs battery. Aqua Indiglo. Quartz. What's this thing? Breitling. I am 100% certain that's going to be a replica Breitling. It's working. It doesn't feel, again, it doesn't have the right weight, the right feel, the finish doesn't feel good. And the fact this back is loose tells me that somebody was probably checking to see if it was real and found out it was not. That is not what a Breitling movement looks like. But it's a working automatic watch, and somebody might want to look like they have a Breitling on their wrist. But anybody who knows watches would know right away. They could tell from looking at it that that's not real. So I'll put this one with my replica Tudor that's up there. Keep the fakes separated. Oh, and speaking of fakes, I don't think I just found a bag of Rolexes. A bag of Folexes, more like it. Okay. Well, it says Rolex on the dial. Rolex never made a watch that looked like that. So, Rolex did make a watch that looked like this. However, this would be an automatic. That would be like a President. It's not a bad looking. Actually, this one feels about right. And they even put the, when you have the underline underneath the Rolex crown, that means it's an automatic. So let's give a little test. Don't see anything happening. I'm gonna put that in my let's open it and check it out later pile. I did notice in a couple of these boxes, there were some watches in really good shape. That's a fairly brand new, it still has a plastic on it, Citizen Eco Drive. So that's not bad. We're getting a pile of okay stuff over there, aren't we? Getting a pretty good pile. These are definitely sellable. I have to put batteries in some of them, but I can definitely sell this stuff. So we'll separate that. I've got a few more bags to go. And then there's the boxes of stuff too. And that stuff. So there's a lot to go through today. Okay, on to the next. We have little Bulova. No back, it says. Parts maybe. Well, maybe I can just find a back for it. Some early watches. These are like 1930s, 40s, West clocks. Unfortunately, some of them are missing their backs. That one's complete. Renar, 17 jewels. What's this one? Winner Mark. So it's an automatic watch, but low grade automatic. I know I'm sounding like I'm being very critical. I'm just basically looking for very specific things. There's a little Mickey Mouse watch in there though. Loris Mickey Mouse watch, like kids or lady size. Probably more of a kid size watch, but still kind of cute. I'm looking for the good stuff. And sometimes the good stuff is elusive. That's an old Orient watch. They've always had interesting sort of dials like that green iridescent. Ooh, that automatic movement does not sound happy. Listen. Shouldn't be making that noise. That's got loose parts on the inside. Seiko automatic. Oh, that one's working still. Yeah, it sounds all right. Put that over in the automatic pile. Getting through the nitty gritty of stuff here. This is like more of a 1940s or early 50s style watch. It's called a boy size watch, which was actually more popular back in the 50s. A man would have a smaller wristwatch, and they started getting bigger later on. Now they're like the size of a dinner plate, it seems. Okay. This bag was entirely vintage ladies cocktail watches, which are the small, delicate little watches that were popular in the 1940s and 50s. Delicate little watches for ladies' wrists. A little hard to read the time off of these things, being how tiny the dials are. And sometimes they were obscured to look like a bracelet, and then you could flip it open. Which way does that go? Like that. And your watch would be underneath. Otherwise, people just think you're wearing a bracelet. But almost every one of them seems to work. And that's good, because these range typically around the $30 to $60 each range. So you can add that up in your head. That's probably $300-400 worth of watches, even at auction for that bag. So I'd say I got my money's worth already, but there's still more to go. Inside the wooden box, we have a whole bunch of parts. and project watches from the looks of things. Some kind of automatic. There's a Rolexy looking bezel, but it's definitely not. I've learned though that don't overlook the parts, because sometimes the parts and pieces can be a better find than the watch itself if it's the right case or the right bits and pieces. What is that? Unusual looking. Oh, it's an Orient watch. So these must have been all movements that were in progress. Things that they were working on. Mechanical automatic movements. So he'd been buying, it looks like, skeleton movements. Maybe they're making their own skeleton watches, taking the old watches out, or the old guts out of the watch, and making their own with these new automatic movements. Curious. That would have been a lot of work, but that would explain why they had so many watches. They were probably doing some conversion on things. So just a pile of new movements, watch faces, watch parts, but I don't see nothing too fancy, but a lot of good parts and pieces. And this looks like it's mostly faces. It's an older one, it's porcelain. Some antique ones mixed in with some newer. If you're refacing a watch, handy things to have. If your dial is broken or scratched or something's wrong with it, it's good to have some extras. So kind of neat bits to have around. And then the cardboard box was just completely packed full of tools. Screwdrivers, watch back openers, everything you probably need to work on or fix a watch right there. Just about everything. So a pretty good variety of stuff. Well, let me sort this all out and then I'll show you what I think were the best finds out of today's bundle. Well, I'm still knee deep in sorting, but I have my mechanical ladies' watches, my parts, wrist watches, the newer, these are all swatches in here. The newer watches, which I think if I put a battery in, I can just sell those individually because somebody will think that they're cool and they're in good shape. Really random swatch with grass strap and ants for second hands. Replica Rolexes, womp, 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 unfortunately. But out of all of this, that's to say that I did end up getting some nice 1940s Gruins, which are in working condition, very thins and so forth. That one has a gold case. So 14 karat gold case on that, which, like I said, paid $500 for everything. Gold is worth money. Not that I'm gonna scrap it, but if I did. There are a lot of project watches in here. The Citizen Eco Drive's not a bad watch, popular style. But my favorite watch is, probably no surprise, the Secura. I had one like this before. I had to sell it years ago. It's a nice watch. And there was a few other nice pieces in here too, like the Citizen Eco Drive that's brand new. And some of these little curiosities that would probably turn out to be cool pieces once they get put back together. And, you know, like the Timexes, the automatic Seikos and so forth. So lots of stuff to sort. You know, will no doubt get my money back on this batch just because I can piece it all out. And in fact, that's what I've been doing, separating the project watches into baggies, which I'm just going to sell at auction as projects, and the tools, etc. So overall, pretty good score, but worthwhile to me to get that Secura, the Seiko 5, the cushion style Seiko 5 right there. A few good pieces in here that kind of make it worthwhile. So I hope you enjoyed today's sorting adventure. I'm gonna have to go wash my hands after this. They feel like they've been covered in old watches, you know, and you've been digging through like an old bucket of nails in the backyard and your hands get all that metallic dust on it. That's how I feel. So I'm gonna go wash myself up. I'm gonna find batteries for these watches to make them all work and go and move so I can sell them. And yeah, a fun haul. I always like going through watches like this, and it's always nice to find a few little treasures. Guys, thanks for watching today's episode. I'm gonna get myself and all this stuff cleaned up off my table, hopefully before supper time here, because I made a bit of a mess. But guys, thanks again for watching. We'll see y'all soon, and as always, bye for now.